Incremental greetings. Today I'm going to react to this article and video from Piotr Wozniak. How to read a book in 1 hour using incremental reading and more specifically Supermemo. That's the article in particular with more detail, but I will focus first on this video which I seen when it came out. Those are my own comments back in the day. What usually happens with Piotr Wozniak is that he takes a lot of material for granted, a lot of things for granted. So I will cover this, that what he actually is doing, that he's not saying or mentioning it. I think people in the comments are familiar with Supermemo, but if it's not your case, then this video will be useful for you. So let's start.
Oh yeah, we will read a book in 1 hour. But there are no miracles. It's not possible to take a 400 pages book, read it with comprehension, and yet try to remember it for life.
Yeah, exactly. So obviously this statement has to be considered with perspective. That doesn't mean you will read an entire book of 400 pages, read the entire text, comprehend the entire text, and even be able to recall the entire text within 1 hour. Obviously, this claim is not interpreted this way.
We did something different. We read it in an hour so that we know more or less what's inside. And if we need to know more detail, we will be perfectly set for the future to read more selected fragments in a very rational way, in such a way that if the book is really worth retaining for a longer time, the stage will be set for the future. For this, we use incremental reading.
Yeah, because if you just read the book, especially if it's in a physical medium, you will forget a lot of those. You will just eventually just remember the overall message. That's pretty much it. With this technique, you will get most of the value very soon. So if you are a knowledge goblin, your mission is to get golden nuggets. So you will explore the book non-linearly to find out quickly what's more valuable for you, the golden nuggets. Once you have done this, then you will go by the silver nuggets and then the bronze nuggets. And eventually, you will come across the threshold that now is diminishing returns. What they have left to read in this book, it has low value already. So most of the value from the book is as soon as possible. And we're using Supermemo with splitting, extracting, prioritizing, and postponing all of that. You can customize it. You can do this experience. This is for one book, but you can introduce any book anytime and interleave those. He says you can read up to 1,000 books. That could be true, and 2,000 if you want.
We'll do the first read in 1 hour, and the book will get splintered into many pieces, which will be later processed in the future. Using this method, you can read 1,000 books, and you can say that, yeah, I read 1,000 books, and you can do it in 1,000 days, you spending an hour a day.
1 hour a day. Okay, let's simplify. You spend 1 hour a day, and for every book you spend an hour. So imagine if you did this in a series, that every day, like if you look at YouTube, most of the videos would be, hey, I read that many, a book, they will say something like, hey, I have read 50 books a year, or 1 book a week, something on that. But it's discrete. You focus on 1 book, you're done, you go to the next one. The amount of forgetting is immense. Perhaps you will take notes, and at a certain degree you will get something. But this is still a lot less than if you use incremental reading. So instead of having 1,000 books, and you read this, every single one of them, every day, until you do the 1,000, you could also do 1,000 from the start. And in 1,000 days, you will finish those books. So everything in parallel. And you will get most of the value from most of the books a lot sooner.
Have a general, reasonable recollection of it.
That also means that it's very likely that you won't read the entire book from cover to cover. because there could be overlapping material that is repeated, duplicated, is not useful for you, and you discard it. So you don't have to read every single word in a book. Now the question is, what is for you to read the book? I have 400 pages. Let's say that what I read within Supermemo equals to 300 pages. I will not know that because I don't use pages per se. Okay, I read 3/4 of the book, and I got everything I wanted. Could I say I have read the book? Depends how you interpret that. If I got everything I could from this book, yes, I will say that I have read the book. That doesn't mean I have read the entire thing. We could compare this as, hey, do you know how to speak English? Yes, I do. That doesn't mean I know how to express every single detail, all of the vocabulary, use of English, and so on, or how to pronounce every single word. That's not the case. But I still say I know English, right? So, hey, I read this, that is finite, certain number of pages, but if I got all of the value I wanted, or I read that book.
What's in those books?
Let me know if you disagree.
For the job, you need a special kind of book. First of all, it cannot be information dense. It cannot be a book.
Okay, that is a very big detail, a very big nuisance. If the 400 pages book was a textbook, or perhaps not necessarily a textbook, but some book that, wow, there's a lot of information density, you will not could do that in 1 hour. That's way too much information to unpackage. So the kind of video, the kind of books that are friendly for this flow are the ones that have a lot of fluff, like a biography, that is still useful. So you need a lot of context, but eventually, let's say the biology of Elon Musk, of Steve Jobs, of someone in the a few centuries ago, it will be useful, and you will create very high value items out of those books. But you'll have to read a lot to make an item. So that means that the ratio of the reading, the amount of words versus the items you will do, is very low. So most of the time you will invest is actually reading. For instance, I had a book, I don't know how many pages, I think something like that, 400, perhaps a little less, about mastering how to YouTube thing and so on. I just did 8 items out of that. So imagine that. That is a good example.
On biochemistry or quantum mechanics, it must be a book which is an easy read, must be a bit of fluff, like anecdotes and explanations, must be well structured so that when you read the beginning of the chapter, you have a general idea what's in the chapter. You can decide how deep you go into that chapter.
Exactly. So in other words, that is skimming friendly. That at the beginning I can know, okay, like a newspaper article kind of thing. I have the title, I have then the first chapter. With this I can assess, okay, I'm pretty sure the content that it's there, it's this and that, so I can quickly, heuristically perhaps, assess the priority. That doesn't interest me, I will move this, I will postpone that, and even delete straight away, stuff like this. So there's a big nuisance in the title. How to read the book, not any book.
What kind of detail you go into that chapter, and you need to love the book. If you don't love the book, this 1 hour will be hard because you need a 1 hour of good focus to
the pleasure of learning. Yep. If you want to read the book because you are forced, you're coerced, that is an compulsory reading. That happened in my school. In the school system, you had compulsory readings of fiction books, and then you had the exam and so on. But if you do it because you want to, enjoy it. If you don't, what you will do is, whoop, discard it, delete the entire book. I thought because it was suggested or recommended by that person or that website, you had an starting evaluation, a prospective value. Then when you start skimming, is that's not what I thought at all. Then just delete it. Easy as that.
Really read all the necessary details, make good decisions so that you provide a good ground for the future reading if the need arises. So I chose the book Alexander Neill, Summerhill. That's a classic of unschooling. It was published in 1960. It's available in Internet Archive, and because of how
It's a good example because if you want to reproduce this, you can do it legally for free because it's available.
use incremental reading, I need it in electronic form. If I had a paper book, I'd have to somehow convert it to electronic form. Otherwise,
I have videos on that, kind of old, a few years. You can have, I don't know, Amazon, whatever, book form. You convert it to an EPUB, and with a few tricks, you can import it with all of the images, split by chapter, whatever you want. When it's plain text, you only get text. So if it's a book that contains no images, or the images are kind of dummy, like the profile picture of the author, stuff like this, you can just import the text. Which goes in consonance of the theme of this flow. The kind of books that are friendly for this flow, usually they will have very few images in the entire book.
incremental reading wouldn't make much sense. I begin with just ordinary copy and paste. Then I convert the text to plain text just to use my default formatting in the browser and simplify processing of the text. Generally, I like plain text. Then I add references.
That depends. There are several ways you can achieve this within Supermemo. Let's see what actually Wozniak actually used.
That all splintered pieces of information in the future have their context available just in case you encounter a piece without a context. Then I will edit.
Exactly. So if it's out of context, because you will see an extra in your repetitions, you won't be able to know the source necessarily, where this comes from, which book or which place. With references, you will know that. And finally, add a picture. That if you want to add the cover of the book, okay, do it, but it doesn't add anything meaningful. It's just that looking at the image, it could be like equivalent at looking at the reference. That, oh yeah, it's that book. Okay, from this title, this author, blah blah blah. That doesn't mean a picture that is a diagram or something, an illustration, like in for instance in a scientific paper, that you will require to see those figures.
The picture just for mnemonic to make learning more pleasurable. Here's my book. I can just begin reading. Summerhill is the most.
Okay, he completely skipped the importing procedure. This is taken for granted. So what I'm going to do is to download this
Here's
book,
my book.
which I never did, by the way, so that is genuine. Okay, so that's the Wikipedia article. And I'm pretty sure that eventually there will be a link because it's open. Yeah, full text. Nice. What is this? Oh, $2.45 in the 60s. I think that was quite a lot. Then I want to download this. He has the plain text. He didn't set how to do it, right? Okay, no worries. I will skip ahead the video just to get the... He didn't mention that, so I'll have to go to the references when it's shown in the screen. Archive.org. Okay, let's do that. So I'm pretty sure I did the type, at least one typo. So I will go straight to Google. So now instead of this interactive version that is limited, I have the plain text. So I select all of this. So I start here. Let's do the old-fashioned way. Okay, now I have everything. So now I want actually plain text. Ctrl+Shift+F12. Convert to plain text. Yes. Then I want to do the references. Is one of the points that Piotr had. Okay. I could do this, for instance. Now I select the text, Alt-Q, and I select author. Then Summerhill, I select this. I could do Alt-Q and select title, or title has a shortcut already that it's Alt-T. You see now it says title and author. I could also do the year. It's not here. Oh yeah, here it is. I select the title, I select the year, Alt Q, and date. I have to choose the date that I imported this, or the date of the book, or both. Or this is the date of the forward that was done way ahead of time before the release of the book. Okay, I don't care much. Let's go with the contents, actual contents. So in this case, I will remove, delete after cursor, Alt, Ctrl dash. So if it was HTML, like an EPUB, I will be able to split right away by those actions. I cannot do that because it's plain text. Nice. So let's continue. What I won't do now is the image, because personally I will not do this, just a cover, and then it's a good choice for this video so you could compare both cases.
Summerhill is the most unusual school in the world. Here is a place where children are not compelled to go to class. They can stay away from lessons for years, if they want to. Yet, strangely enough, the boys and girls in school learn. In fact, being deprived of lessons turned out to be a severe punishment.
This is from the 60s. Oh my god. We're in 2024. So 64 years later. And how much progress there has been on the with the coercion in the school system, the Prussian system, that is heavily outdated.
I'll select that piece. And Alt X, I'll mark it as done.
Alt X is to extract. Okay. And he said apply to done. Let's see what this is.
Let's keep rolling. Summerhill has been run by...
Okay, he only mentioned that. Let's do the same example. Well, I don't have this. I think I deleted already. But after the contents, that's a forward, or the introduction. Okay, so I'm not sure. Let's say that it's this case, when the school starts, when the book actually starts. So I make this selection. I select the text, Alt X. This creates an extract that, hey, here, there's some information I want to understand further or even memorize. Then, on left, I navigate to that element that I just created. By the way, do you see now it says title, the author, and all of that? Nice. I want to know when was founded. Hey, in this year, Alt Z, and I create a close deletion, and this creates a flashcard. The question, now I could delete this. Summerhill was founded in the year what? 1921. Cool. Then let's say that I don't want anything else. I don't want this information. I will apply done. What he said to apply done. Ctrl+Shift+Enter. Confirm, confirm. And now I only have the flashcard and called item in Supermemo and where it comes from. So now this is a folder. I have this semantic hierarchy of how I crawled the information. Nice.
By A.S. Neill for almost 40 years. This is the world's greatest experiment in bestowing unstinted love and approval on children, where one courageous man, backed by courageous parent, has had fortitude to actually apply without reservation the principles of freedom and non-repression.
Remember, in regular incremental reading, you have one action, one memory, one action. In this case, you're reading more. You will have stopped there when you did this extract and move on to the next element. But now you're skimming the book, so you keep going. And basically, after reading is this flow. Is there some value here? Something I want to remember? I will extract it. No, or there is, but I already know that because I have read this elsewhere. There's nothing for me to learn because I have learned this already. So I will move on and continue reading or delete the text. That is possible.
I'll keep reading in this way. To have a good intro, I'll be focusing on those pieces pretty well.
That's a different flow. What he's doing now is that he's exporting text he haven't read yet. This could be useful when you have a hunch that, oh yeah, I'm pretty sure now because of the structure, this is like the text before the actual content. It's more dense, perhaps, in information. So I'm pretty sure this is almost, I take for granted, I will want something out of that. So I do preemptively, I do the extract. I move on.
Yeah, so we know more or less what a book is about. You have a bit of data for references. I already created references with a forward from Eric.
Yeah, so that text was before, I deleted this already. Was before the forward and so on, okay.
That's a famous personality, dedicated to Harl Hart. I will skip on that. I hope you will get as much credit or blame for this book as I will. You have acted not as a publisher, but as a believer to what Summerhill has done and is doing. Your patience has amazed me. Now we go to the table of contents. So we
Again, super limited because it's plain text.
Won't need that. You just will have a general understanding, more or less, what's the book about.
And could be useful to know how you want to split the book. In case that, oh, you know what, just the first level of the chapter will be enough. So children's problems, parents' problems, question and answers, and so on. You could say, no, you know what? I also want the next level to be split.
A forward from Erich Fromm. I'll use Alt / to get.
That is what I have done, by the way, before. Delete before cursor. This backslash or Ctrl /, I don't know how it's even called, may be different from you. Usually it's above the tab, but in different keyboards you have a different icon.
Get rid of the initial text so I could keep reading from that point. During the 18th.
It's an easy way that instead of selecting the text, scrolling up, and then delete, you just... I note that from here I don't want anything else from the start, so without making any selection.
In 18th century, the ideas of freedom, democracy, and self-determination were proclaimed by progressive thinkers, blah, blah, blah. Results of this new method were disappointing.
He does the extract by just skimming. I haven't read this fully, but I have already enough information to know that I want this. So that means that even if I haven't read the entire thing, I know I will take the same action that is extracting. This won't change. So I will read it later. This is also true if you want to read it fully and then do the extract. You'll reread this anyways later on. This is valid, absolutely valid. And especially because you have 1 hour, you won't read the entire thing. You are skimming.
Be sure I don't miss the rest. I perhaps will set up independent references for Erich Fromm so that I confuse it with the rest. Oh boy, now I'm a little bit confused.
Confused because of the limitations of plain text.
And the scale of word of introduction. Yeah, sometimes you get in trouble. Okay, you know what I'll do? I'll just extract the part and worry about this later. Here I have some as called the basic humanistic values. He is a critic of the present society. Reading this book, felt greatly stimulated. I might indicate 2 of my main reservations. I feel that...
Where's he reading? I don't even know. There is no highlight at all.
Neill somewhat underestimates the importance, pleasure, authenticity of an intellectual in favor of an artistic and emotional grasp of the world. Men of great courage. I'll be clear to the reader that the experiment about which this book report is necessarily one. I'll be clear to an artistic and emotional grasp of the world. Men of...
Did you notice that? This here. This is when you hover the image component, you get this metadata. So this time he wasn't actually using the hovering the mouse where he was reading, or using the keyboard.
Of great courage.
That's why I'm lost. I don't know in which line he's reading at.
I'll be clear to the reader that the experiment about which this book report is necessarily one which can be repeated many times. It's the New Society.
Again.
I believe Neill's work is a seed which will germinate. In time, his ideas will become generally recognized in a new society.
Now he's doing it. He's following with the mouse. Okay.
In which man himself and his unfolding are the supreme aim of all social effort.
This sounds meaningful.
Your children are not your children. Oh, I see the book begins somewhere in here. So that I will extract Erich from forward.
That's a huge extract, by the way.
Ah, that's some kind of motto by Khalil Gibran.
He knew that already? So I guess you have to be familiar with this author to recognize this. I would have never gotten any clue about this. A poet and visual artist. Hey, this is Microsoft Copilot. One of the flows that you can do now with Supermemo is to also use language models. So especially if you're skimming, you don't want a very specific and correct answer. You want one quick answer, an overview. Oh yeah, what is this from? Da, 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 da. Okay. And you make the, you take action there. You're not going to make closulations out of this text. It's a very, very good flow.
And I don't know who that is. A word of introduction. I will use all.
Oh, my mistake. It was written at the bottom. I was impressed that, oh wow, with the first lines already recognized the poem.
Backslash.
Well, he did that. Did you get it?
In cycle. I will use alt backslash.
Delete before cursor again. I almost didn't see it, but I'm very familiar with the dialogues. It's that one.
In psychology, no one knows very much. The inner force of human life are still largely hidden from us. Since Freud...
This is still the same topic repetition, by the way. Very long. This is unusual in incremental reading. That is because of this flow. Read a book within an hour.
Genius made it alive. Freud genius. Ah. Yeah, remember, it was 1960. The fascination with Freud was still in there. Since I left education and took up child psychology, I have had a...
Yeah, because when you read a book that is so old, you have to take in consideration the time this was written and the society of back then. And it is especially true when this is even before you were born, like is my case.
all sorts of children to deal with. Incendiary.
Not for Piotr Wozniak. I think he was already born there.
Thieves, liars, bad.
Let me do the math. No, I think just for a 1, 2, or 3 years off.
There's bad-tempered children.
Yeah.
Years of intensive work in child training has convinced me that I know comparatively little of the forces that motivate life. I'm convinced, however, that parents who have had to deal.
So if you're familiar with basic psychology or Freud, the author, that depends. So how you do this, how you process this text, will depend on your previous knowledge. If I have no clue, I will invest more time and I will do extracts that are more syntactic, a lot tinier. If for me all of this context is already familiar, it's okay. I'm getting what the book is about, the focus, and so on. But everything that is being mentioned, I am very familiar with. I don't need to learn that. I already know. I may have some other sources in my collection from years ago, and the items out of those sources.
With only their own children, know much less than I do. Yeah, that's understandable. He ran a school. It's because I believe it's a difficult child. It's always made a difficult wrong treatment. What's the professor psychology? A difficult child is the child who is happy. He's at war with himself and in consequence at war with the world. And that's good. The difficult adult is in the same boat. No happy man ever disturbed a meeting or preached a war or lynched a Negro. No happy woman ever nagged her husband or her children. No.
Do you think at his reading speed, he can actually read this book, about 400 pages long, within an hour? I don't think so. That's why, yes, it's within an hour what you want to do with it, the value you want to get from the book, not to read the entire book in an hour.
No happy man ever committed the murder or theft. No happy employer ever threatened his employees. All crimes, all hatred, all wars can be reduced to unhappiness. Yeah. A word of introduction. Words of wisdom. The chapter 1.
He did like 10 extracts already within the same repetition. That's not the usual flow in incremental reading. I want to keep emphasizing this. Don't take this as the usual flow in Supermemo. Just yet. Eventually I think he will do, but not now. Also keep in mind, that's the topic, it's an entire book, and he's editing some content, but some content that has been deleted was first extracted. So now he already has like 10 topics. He will have 10 children. And those children are scheduled at the same time. So let me do it in my collection, it will be easier to follow. Okay, I actually just did a few. So if you see, this child, it's scheduled in 2 days, 2 days again, 3 days, and 2 days. So the more extracts I do in a single repetition, the more topics I will have outstanding in a very short period of time. And especially in this case, that this is a very long extract, I could have, I don't know, 5 or 10 extracts out of that very easily. So this will quickly replicate. So you have 1, 10, 100 in a few days. So this can grow very, very quickly. Keep that in mind. If you don't do that, if you prefer to just go one by one, then next, assuming you do all of the outstanding queue, you will just see it in 2 days. You will do the close deletion or delete it. Depends on the what will happen. The decision you will take, you don't know today, the decision, and apply done. Since you will apply done, this won't be accumulating in the queue. So you will just have a handful topics at once.
Summerhill School, Alt /, and then I'll do the following trick. I won't read the whole book for 1 hour, just to spur some of your time. I'll just tell you how it goes. I'm reading the beginning. I get the general idea of what's happening. Skip a little bit, skip a little bit, skip a bit more, go further. And when I think I extract a sensible chunk of information, I stop. For example, here, I look at Summerhill. I pressed Shift-Alt-H, insert horizontal line, and this line will demarcate a piece of text that will be extracted as a separate piece of information.
It's another strategy. So instead of doing a huge extracts, just for the sake to have this as a child and see next time, you can do these horizontal lines manually. And once you're done with the entire topic, you can apply the split. This is useful if you do this in a more linear fashion as he's doing now. And if you do it purely manual as he's doing now, because it's plain text. I don't have a tag, HTML tag that I can target to split. So you're limited to this flow.
For the future. And I'll keep doing that with the rest of the book. Each time.
So from 1 hour, how much time he will spend on this? That's why I really suggest, if the book you want to read has some meaningful chapters, that are kind of can be read standalone and all of that. So it will be meaningful to split those chapters. Use EPUB and HTML instead of plain text. Once you have split that, if you really want, you can apply Ctrl+Shift+F12 and convert it to plain text. But you will need the HTML before to actually split it. It will save you a ton of time.
I find a sensible and well-encapsulated piece of text. I'll extract it separately. The more important the text, the smaller the pieces. But you know what?
Exactly. Or said in a different way, the lower the priority or the importance, the more text you can extract at once.
1 hour, I will aim at ending the entire book. So this will work like that.
So even if it's plain text, in this case it's still like a title. It's kind of easy to get, even though it's a lot harder because it's plain text compared to HTML. So if you do this, look at the scroll bar, you will have to invest some time just to split this.
Split the book. Enter. Enter. Split. Enter.
In this case, why he used the default settings? Because you may have think that, hey, let's use the custom setting. Well, because it's plain text, there's no wiki headline. There are no headings at all from 1 to 6. He only has horizontal lines. But are you sure about that? Yes, because it's plain text. He doesn't mention this, but this is not obvious in Supermemo. This was plain text because I applied Ctrl+Shift+L. But as soon as I did something, an action, in this case was the first extract. Let me see. I did this extract. This includes this highlight color. Then it converts the text to an HTML once again. It doesn't let you know this, but this is what actually happened. This is no longer plain text. And if I want now to apply the
Enter for the commander, intellectual in favor of an artistic and emotional grasp of the world, which sees in a new social. So that's some kind of moral with the backslash. The inner the last 60 is the child debate. No treatment. Now I have to that one. Read the whole book. Here, into the horizontal line, I pressed. For example, here, I look at Summerhill. I pressed Shift-Alt-H.
Shift-Alt-H. Okay, let's do that. Now I press Shift-Alt-H. Hey, am I adding something here? It sounds like just a new line break. Hey, yes, there are those lines. So this depends. If you don't use the default styling, it may happen this, that you are applying the horizontal line and it's not visible at all, unless you select it. You select it. Keep that in mind. And then, going back to where we were, you will split it by those horizontal lines. That means that he has the manual extracts he did before, and I don't know if he really did more than 200 horizontal lines. It's been cut. This looks super short. I think that was a manual extract. So we don't know what he actually did. That was off screen. But whatever he did was manual approach. And if you have 1 hour, I'm not sure how much you already spent. And he read very little.
237 fragments. Some of them are longer. Some of them are shorter. Some of them.
how do I know he used the split? Yes. When you do the split, Supermemo applies this. The name of the parent, space, colon, space, and the text. And in this, it's hard-coded. It has to be this color. You cannot change that. At least at the beginning, it's applied in blue. It doesn't have this. Let me see the previous one. No. If he will check one of the first elements in the browser window, we won't see this title. That will mean that it was a manual extract.
Some of them are longer, some of them are shorter.
Actually, let me display this. Look at the extracts I did. They have nothing in blue, right? I will just do dummy because I don't want to spend that much time. Now I apply Shift-Alt-H, then Ctrl-Enter to summon the commander, SP to filter the split, and just this, the defaults. Now I only have a few because I haven't did many horizontal lines. Because even if there are 4 choices checked, 3 are dummy because there are none. So only the PR tag is being used, the new line break. Nice. Do you see now it's just a title? In my case, the title is just Summerhill. I didn't put the full title of the book. So that's how you know that, hey, this has been a split. It has not been a split.
Some of them have already been done, so they can be deleted. The formatting is messed up a little bit.
Not the formatting, it's the new line break. This is especially useful, this is especially the case for PDFs. Or in this case it's plain text, but I'm pretty sure this plain text, well, based on the source, based on that, it's from this DJ view format. So makes sense you have this. It's sadly true. Usually when it's converted from another format, you will have these random or weird line breaks. Hard-coded line breaks, should I say.
I don't think converting.
By the way, look what he's doing now. Convert to plain text. Why? Because since you do the split, it pre-appends the title in blue. This is HTML, so it is reconverted to HTML text.
The plain text can help here.
And in this case, why it doesn't help? Because the new line break is hard-coded. That line break was not caused by HTML tags. So if you remove the HTML tags, you still have the new line breaks. Then, it will only make sense to spend time, keep in mind, we have 1 hour. So if you want to spend time on deleting the new line breaks, you could use regular expressions. Not in Supermemo. You could do it manually, is one way. But I will only do when it's the flashcard. So when I make the close deletion, and in the flashcard form, the item form, then I will spend the time there. Could be that you spend time amending the text, and then you don't do the close deletion. Now, when I do the repetition, it's not that useful. I will just delete it, and I will have invested the time for nothing. Second detail is that if you done now here, apply done, or straight delete is another option. If you apply done with no childs, no extracts or close deletions done, applying done will also delete that element. And this is how it is seen in the element, this is how it's seen in the browser window. Because the element number 20 in the list no longer exists. This will require a refresh. So if you close down the browser and open it again, you won't see this.
Things are important. I can correct them manually. No big deal. I can correct them manually. No big deal. Delete it. This formatting looks better when I switch to full screen again. The first tool I would like to show is search.
What you can do is that now what he's using is a browser layout. Whenever you open your browser, so that's my layout. If I open this, that's my browser layout. I can increase this, like he had, it was massive, or less than that. If you really want to customize it, let's say that I only want this, very tiny, very narrow. Then toolkit, window, layout, save custom layout, and call it browser. This is reserved from Supermemo. That means that now every single time that I open the browser, I will have more or less the same width. It doesn't go crazy like that. I could do it because, let's say that I only want this to be now because I don't see the text, but once I'm done checking this won't happen ever again. Oh yeah, it does. Actually, it does. So even if you don't click on window and save explicitly, it will remember this. Unless your default layout includes the browser window, which is very unlikely. This may have not, it won't be much important perhaps, unless you have this flow very often. Then you will want to bother with the browser contents. And as soon as you close down, the element window, the element layout, and as soon as you close down the browser layout will be gone. And the previous one, assuming the default layout, will be reapplied.
Someone asked me if Summerhill was a democratic school, and I wasn't sure if anybody ever used.
That's why having an image, especially if it's just a cover, so big, you're just consuming space. That is not that useful in the screen.
The term democratic school at that time. So I thought maybe I'll search the book for the word democracy. Because there is a word democratic, I'll just search for demo.
By the way, if you notice, why radical has this color? Because that was, I'm pretty sure, what he has searched before. And you get a highlight, even if it's in the references.
Demo.
He had Democrat, okay. So in Supermemo, the search is very, very rudimentary. So yes, you can do an or a not, but there are no wildcards or regular expressions. This makes it a lot super limited. So it will be nice to filter democracy, Democrat, and all of the permutations at the same time. This could be still done in this case with the OR search. But you get what I mean, that there are a lot of regular expressions that if it's not like different words, it will be super complicated to do.
Democrat,
that is a cheap strategy. In this case works because both words, Democrat and democracy, share this root. It's the same spelling. Up to here, up to the A.
Supermemo searches the whole.
Then searches the whole collection, not just this chapter. So perhaps you want to do a search within this book. Then you will apply the search in the browser window. That they only consider the few hundred articles I have here. And the larger your collection, the longer will take you the search. Look at this. This is ridiculous. More than 300 hits.
Collections.
3,000, sorry.
That's a bit of time.
Okay, he edited that, but we can...
Whole Democrat. Supermemo searches the whole collection.
He has edited that. So let's say that it is 40 seconds in total. Because the time expected actually keeps growing. This is one word. So if I wanted to search with an R, it will replicate the search in the entire collection for every single word. So perhaps I will need to wait 2 minutes, 3 minutes, until I get the result.
So that's a bit of time. And I have 6 occurrences.
What is this?
And I have a bit of time.
If he had more than 5,000 hits, how come now he only has... What's happening here? Then, the results he had in total were 12,000 in the collection. We haven't seen that because he edited this out. But now is from this search, collecting elements using democra. Now this is from this book. So the extracts or the topics he has split that had those words. In this case, only 6.
And I have 6 occurrences. I can use Ctrl, Shift.
That's different. That's very important. So I can just click on search. I will just do demo. Okay. I have more than 2,000 something. Cool. It was quite quick because this collection is a lot tinier. It's just 50,000 elements. 10% of what my collection once was, by the way. Nice. But what I could also do is, no. I want Summerhill. I will open this on the browser. In this case, I only have 12. Let's pretend I have 200 and something like Piotr, but I didn't want to split this manually. And then what I can go is do here, search, and search browser. And then demo. What it does is still a full collection search. So instead of just searching from the 12 elements I had, Supermemo searches the entire collection, gets the hits, then compares the hits of these, well, there's no search, so the elements in the browser, and then the elements that are in both, those are selected. This is not good. That means that if your collection is huge, even if you reduce it to a few elements, as I did, still will search the entire collection. Take this into consideration. If now let's make it like the absurd example. I only have one. And I want to search I will have an enormous amount of hits in this case. But what are you doing? I only have one element. Why are you searching the entire collection? Search only on those. So I know that the article is a pointless example, but it's to represent something that it's very likely that if I have 500,000 or 1,000,000 elements in my collection, and it's demo or democracy, I could have like him 12,000 hits, and this takes forever. And what do I do now? I have to wait. Do I watch a YouTube short in the meantime or what? So up to a minute. In my collection, imagine if my collection was 10 times, tenfold what it is now, which was true before. I will need not 1 minute, but 10 minutes most likely. Now collects the elements, and it will do the inner join of the IDs, element IDs in the browser. And let's see. Oh wow, it's itself. Yes, there was only one. And happily includes the article. And even that, now it's not even responding. So, take this in consideration. I'm pretty sure if you're watching this video, look at that, oh my god. If you're watching this video, your collection will be tinier. But eventually, as your collection grows, this will make a meaningful change. Following the video, now he's doing Ctrl+Shit+L for review. That's not a subset review, by the way. That's a big difference. Let me open this. What says here? review all the material in the browser in the presently displayed sequence. So if I sort by anything else, like repetitions, now I will see this order. Is all of the content in the browser and in the exact same order that is presented. But this is everything, Ctrl+Shift+L. If what I want is to learn is Ctrl+L. What's the difference? Is that the subset learning will only present me what is outstanding. We will filter the outstanding or filter out the non-outstanding elements. If I do this, it will show me absolutely everything, even if it's outstanding. So if I pre-filter this, child and outstanding, then there will be no difference. Both actions will have the same, but because I pre-filtered this myself. So this is a huge difference. The extra modifier, Ctrl+Shift, so with two modifiers, means everything. It doesn't matter if it's not outstanding. It will be in the subset review.
L, to review them all. A forward for every.
Which is especially indicated in this flow, because perhaps you just did the extracts today, 10 minutes ago, half an hour ago. So you don't want to wait until tomorrow. You want to spend just 1 hour. So I don't care if it's not outstanding. It won't be outstanding. Almost virtually everything won't be outstanding. That's why you want this flow with Ctrl+Shift+L.
From actually, democracy is.
Another example is that now this is the CSS being applied on the search query, Democra. So if your CSS has a different font size, font family, it looks like this. So keep that in mind, that sometimes it's not the best experience.
Mentioned the first line. During the 18th century, the ideas of freedom, democracy, and self-determination were proclaimed by progressive thinkers, and by the first half of the 1900s, these ideas came to fruition in the field of education.
This is useful is for you really care about democracy. It's the strategy that a knowledge goblin will do. Is, hey, I want to get most of the information related to democracy once it's mentioned. So if my golden nuggets are related to democracy, hey, I want to do a subset of the topics that have a split that contains democracy. And what I could do also is sort by the shortest texts. Because yeah, I could have democracy, but could be a huge reading, a huge piece of text. And it's mentioned in the word 2000 and something. So this is more meaningful, more straight to the point about democracy. So as a knowledge goblin, I want the smaller topics that contains my keyword. Even I can neglect the priority. Why? Because I have used a split. That means that the split, all of the topics from the split, have inherit the priority and has some fuzziness, higher and lower priority. So this priority has not been set manually. It's semi-dummy priority. So you just can neglect this priority. If it's above the source or below the source, that doesn't mean it's higher or low priority at all. It has been decided by Supermemo, not by me. So I don't even care about the priority interrange within the source, this book.
Yeah, that's very general.
Now he did a postpone or a schedule. I don't even know what he didn't set what he pressed. And different key bindings just trigger the same window visually, so you don't actually know what's happening. And he set this to 3 days. Why? Because this was sent, or it is already, I don't know. It has been edited out. I cannot know that. But now is in 164 days. This is massive. So he changes the next interval to just 3 days.
During the 18th century, the ideas of freedom, democracy, and self-determination were proclaimed by progressive thinkers, and by the first half of the 1900s, these
By the way, you could do this in bulk in case you want it. If the book is really long, you have done a lot, hundreds of even thousands of topics. You will go there. So imagine this is filtered of from this book everything that contains democracy. Then I will process the browser and advance. Only the topics in case you already have this. And yeah, let me advance this. Let's say that it's in the hundreds. Or let me advance 100 days. So if it was 145, it will have 45. If it had 120, it will be 20 days. And stuff like this. This is useful if you don't want to check every single one, every single topic, and you are kind of sure or very sure that all of the topics are in the same case. If I do a search of democracy or the keyword I want, they have the keyword I want, so therefore I want this to be sooner. Could be that some are dummy. You don't know.
these ideas came to fruition in the field of education. Yeah, that's very general. Summerhill is a self-governing school, democratic in form. Everything connected with the social or group life, including punishment of social offenses, is settled by the vote on Saturday night general school meeting. I can extract that. Each member of the teaching staff and each sailor, regardless of age, has one vote. One may smile and say, but your vote is muy vale, isn't it? The sequence is worth recording. Once I spoke strongly.
So at the very least, you can see that the skimming, even if it's skimming, it's not the natural reading in incremental reading yet. It's non-linear already.
About breaking the bedtime rules. Summerhill self-government has no bureaucracy. There is a different chairman at each meeting, appointed by previous chairman, blah, blah, blah. And I can use horizontal lines for splits, or just use standard selections and extract pieces.
Okay, what he's doing. Yes, you're gonna still do this, not necessarily is in the first level of hierarchy, the book. You could have a topic that you have a split and do a second level. If it's plain text, that's a flow you'll be prone to do. But if you do Ctrl+A to select all of the text, what's going to happen?
Just use standard selections.
You also select the sources. So you'll have to unselect the sources first.
And extract pieces.
He did an extract that was super quick. And then what is he doing? He doesn't tell you what he's doing. He is applying done. Why? Because he reads the limit. And the limit at the end. That's the more text. And he has a copy now as a child, even if he hasn't read that. If that's in the child, that means he has the copy. So you just get rid of this. You will have duplicated content if you keep this. And the next step is to ignore it, to dismiss it. That's why it will become a folder.
Further work. After a longer while, you can use them.
After a long while, I don't know how a while, because you spend about 10 minutes plus everything you edited out, so you'll have that much left for an hour, by the way. You can sort by text size. So you want, okay, I want the articles that are about democracy of this book and start with the shortest.
Funny tool, which helps you understand how deep you want to process in the book. You can sort the text by their size and see what are the biggest neglected chunks of text you have missed. So for that I use sort by text size. And this is the biggest piece.
Yeah, by default, the sort is from the largest to the shortest. There's no sorting from the shortest to the largest directly. So every single time you will have to do it twice. Since now this is sorted, if you sort again, it will do the opposite sort. So it's for me a bad decision, Because virtually most of the time, when you want to sort by size, you want the smallest, not the largest. So it would have been better if the default was the opposite sorting. And on top of that, since you will have the highest, the first one will be the larger, it's likely that it will take a while to load in the element window. And since it's not loaded, you cannot go and take the action to resort. It's a pain.
And free child, I can use Ctrl+Shit+K.
In this case, he's actually going to the opposite from the longest. Because this will be one of the few exceptions of this flow. That no, I want the large pieces of text precisely for this, because I will have. It's very likely that I have missed golden nuggets buried in this huge piece of text. What is Ctrl+Shift+K?
K, to have a quick peek. That piece is.
Wow. Wow. That's arcane. Ctrl+Shift+K actually is to link an element from the registry. So that's why when I say that he takes things for granted, that is one of the big things. A lot of people, I'm pretty sure that from the people who watch this video, most of the people will not have gotten this. So especially if I have an image, it's empty, but it will be the same. Length and registry member, Shift, Ctrl+K. In this case goes to the image registry because it's an image. Now, if it's text, it will go to the text registry. In my case, it's 100,000 members, and my collection is very tiny. So if I go to anyone like this that he had, it was longer. Let's use this one. And let's use the key binding. Ctrl+Shift+K. I'm seeing it within the text registry. If I misclick something like, let's do it for the sake of the example. Let's say that I misclick. Or I was just, I want to take a peek. Oh yeah, Summerhill, look all of that I have in Summerhill. Look at that. This is the contents. Let's say that now I press enter. What I just did is that I linked a different text registry member. So this text registry member now, it's being used in two different places. The original one and this one, that was the contents. I messed up really big. And if I go to this, the original of the contents now, the use will be 0. Well, I have too many. I won't check that manually. But we messed up big time. So if you really want to do this, Ctrl+Shift+K, take a peek, but never press enter or accept. Because it will be super easy that you mess up as I did. To make it more obvious, I will do something else in the collection. Precursor of vitamin. And oh shoot, what happened here? I messed up big time.
Is 18 kilobytes.
And yes, this is useful if you want to know the size. So if you want this flow, use escape at all times. Don't click anything. It is so easy to mess up and cannot be undone.
That's roughly 4% of the book, if I'm not mistaken. And we can process it.
It's a good heuristic. Another heuristic you can use is the size of the scrollbar. Well, if there's no scrollbar, it's obvious that it's what you see in the screen. Oh, look at this sidebar, a scrollbar. It's huge. That means that there's not much text to go through. And if we go to the book, now it takes a while because it's long. Oh my god. This is what usually you will want to split right away the books, because the longer they are, slower they will be, or it happens like this. The Supermemo struggles. Oh my god. What I will do once it works again is to show you other examples from this book. At least I want to have this on record, because it's very possible that this happens to you, so that's the explanation. When you have long pieces of information, of text, and especially if the text also has inline images, after I don't know what's the threshold, 2 million or how many characters, Supermemo will behave like this. So I will just kill it. And I start again. Okay. So look at the sidebar, at the scroll bar, the size. So I know this, the glossary of authentication items. This is longer than rhetorical terms. And the sleeping positions is a lot shorter. But yes, I can also make get the exact number. Press escape, Ctrl+K. Oh, this is exactly 90,000 bytes. And rhetorical terms, that is 71,000, is a lot more. Okay. Keep in mind, this doesn't work the same for HTML like I'm doing now. Because this size is not the text, the body text that I see rendered. It's all of the HTML. So if you have a lot of bluff in HTML, a lot of ads, hidden, inline styling, and so on, this counts as bytes. So what he's doing is a good heuristic, very good, but only for plain text. For HTML, unless you use the same source, let's say if you're comparing Wikipedia articles, okay, but if it's a blog post, it can be kilometric and only have 3 paragraphs, because it's the HTML, not the plain text.
Read it. Intellectual John's career was normal. Oh, it's a longer story.
Horizontal line.
Oh, it's very hard to split in this case. Mary. To complete the portrait of John, I ought to give you a short sketch of the life of his sister Mary. Alright, and he can put a horizontal line and split that part for future reading. Mary's grandmother, two were not supposed to have any sex until the right man came along. Well, I think more or less what it might be, private part.
So that's how you lose perception, how many pages you have done. Because in Supermemo, you don't have pagination. It will be a useless feature, by the way. So that's more or less the flow. You have done 400 pages altogether, one single topic. You split, you extract, perhaps keep splitting, and based on what is your interest. In this case, the example was about democracy. Or perhaps about one you read is, oh, this already has high priority, just based on what I read in the content. And you keep iterating on that. Within the same hour, the same day. You don't wait to this to become outstanding. So then, after this hour, what's left are the extracts. What is memorized is not being applied done. So this will be seen in the upcoming days, and you will be able to read this and have a more meaningful, a more, let's say, regular flow in incremental reading, and make eventually the close deletions, and have the flashcards of what you have decided to remember. But perhaps before you finish all of this, you will import yet another book and another articles in parallel. So perhaps this will be stretched in a year. So you will do 80% in the next 2 weeks, and the rest 10% in the next 2 years. Or perhaps some small fraction of that will be left undone, just waiting and waiting for life. 3 decades is still there. That doesn't mean it's bad. It's actually good. You want this to be left because that means that before reading this, you will get more value with something else instead. So unless you don't have anything else that provides more value in your collection, you won't see that again. And since time passes, you will have more books and more knowledge to know, and more up to date. That when, let's say that today, in July 2024, I import this book, even if the book is older, for me it's new. Now, perhaps there's more articles and books that have been released after I have imported this article. They didn't exist back then. So I have new material, and every time I have an overgrowing collection, and the time that I can invest on reading my collection in percentage will be smaller and smaller and smaller. But now I can only read 5% of my collection. I keep importing. Now, even if I read the same amount of time, I spend the same 1 hour a day, every single day for a year. This will represent now 1% of my collection, because now it's in the hundreds of thousands, 500,000 elements. A knowledge goblin will prioritize to get the most of the value from the different sources, not finish a source. That's why, if you are a pro incremental reader, it's very likely you will never read an entire book. Defining reading an entire book, reading all of the text.
Like the medical profession, founding dogs wag their tails in the Tipperhof. Berlin, the great trainer.
And now that I think of, the title says read a book within an hour, but my reaction to this video is already longer than 1 hour. So the time, assuming you have seen this video in one shot until now, this is already longer than the time you have spent generally skimming the book in Supermemo. What an irony.
Hitler whistled his commands, yeah.
Here you have democracy. That's a good example. Now I don't know if democracy was mentioned before, but let's use this as an example. Look at the scroll bar. So you had a huge piece of text that was important for you because it included the keyword, democracy, but it was just mentioned very late at the text. Compare this to the previous topic that was just 2 paragraphs or 3, like just those 3, and include democracy. It's a lot easier to target and to assess, hey, is this what I want? Do I want an item? Do I want something to remember here? You can take the action a lot quicker. That here is, yes, a lot of bluff. Because remember that the book is not information dense. So at the end of the day, once everything is processed, or most of this book is processed, from the 400 pages, I don't know how many topics I will have, how many folders. Depends how granularly I did the extracts. The more granular, the more folders I will have. And then how many items do I have? 100, 50. That's not the metric. You don't value the information. You don't value the source, the knowledge you get from a source, by the number of topics or the number of items you have from it, but the value you get from those items. I could have a book, like I mentioned at the start of the video, that is only 8 items worth, but those items are very, very high priority and very, very meaningful, very high applicability, very broad. And I could have some books or even just an article about terminology of science, geology. The idea, I have 300 items out of that, a lot more. But the value of that knowledge is a lot less than those 8 items. I hope you get what I mean. So you don't measure a book or a source by the quantity of flashcards you get from it, but the overall knowledge and applicability of that knowledge, how will it impact your life. That is the absolute value. As a knowledge goblin, this is what matters.
The fight is an unequal one. For haters, control education releasing the law, the armies, and vital prisons. And again, I can split that part. And at that point, I already have 264 elements. Some of them I deleted. I feel I understand this book much, much better, and it just took me 1 hour. There is still one crazy tool. Say this book much, much better.
So yes, there's an hour. Let's assume that we trust him. He spent 1 hour with all of the stuff that was edited out. Hey, you have hundreds of topics to read. That's not read. You haven't read the book in an hour. Well, you have a skimmed. You have like pre-cooked. So what's left just now is do the recipe. You don't have to cut onions and all of that. It's already pre-cooked, prepped for you. So now this is ready to go to your outstanding queue and have your incremental reading experience.
And it just took me 1 hour. There is still one crazy tool. Say you have nothing to do and you think Summerhill is a great book to read. I'm not sure.
What he's going to do is, hey, I want to add this to my outstanding queue, but I don't want this to be monothematic, because if I just add everything, all I will do is very likely that all I will see is this book. If I don't do anything, just based on his priority range that is very high, what's going to happen if I, according to my sorting criteria, let's say that it's very skewed to priority, but not 100% priority, one fuzziness, like the default settings. What's going to happen that eventually, when I hit a priority range of 1 point something, most of the outstanding repetitions that will pop up will be about this source, because the range of 0.16 to 1.2, let's say that half of the elements in that range are about this book, because I have did the split. When I did the split, most of the topics will have the same priority, very similar to each other. So some positions after or below the priority and expressed in percentage will be really similar. That means that whatever I had in the priority was pushed up or pushed down. So most of what I have in that range is because of the same source, because of the split. So if you want to avoid these monothematic repetitions, what happened? One solution is to increase the fuzziness in the sorting criteria. I can go in my collection and add more fuzziness, because I don't want the same range of 0.6, 1 point something percent, because it will be this book. Or something you can do manually is to modify the outstanding queue, perhaps just temporarily, just for today, with interspersing this book with your genuine outstanding collection, outstanding queue today.
Sure, which parts and then well, which are.
Which is kind of a niche arcane feature, by the way. Do it if you know what you're doing, and more importantly, if you know the consequences that these actions will have. Perhaps after the day gets off, something will be left. You're doing some changes in the collection that will be permanent, not just affect today's outstanding collection. Today, outstanding queue.
Neglected, you may have some fun. Just randomize the browser
Okay, he's not doing this now. He will do it in a few minutes. Another solution is the randomize the order.
And go from the top. You never know where you land.
This is what I mentioned before. Ctrl+L is to learn. So you randomize the order. You didn't sort the contents by priority, by interval, or whatever. It's arbitrary. Ctrl+L will bypass the non-outstanding. And with Shift modifier, we'll have everything, even if it's not outstanding. And you will do a midterm repetition.
The percentage of crime stories on a railway bookstall is high. When a boy of 16 shoots a policeman, the millions of readers do not see that he is living out the kind of fantasy they read about and enjoy. The thriller denotes our inability to play, to fantasy, to create. Fundamentally, it touches our story. A little bit more hit. So on a lazy Sunday, it's easier to focus on a small piece of text and just analyze and get better insight into the book and to the author. So yeah, if you want to keep reading the book without disrupting your learning procedure, you can create a
without your procedure. That's the key difference.
Subset and intersperse that subset with your regular learning. So I'll do the following. I'll take the book, randomize the subset, use.
You don't randomize the subset. You randomize the order of the subset.
Subset, save as.
Because when you save it in a file, this is also saved in the order of appearance. So if you want to sort by priority, sort by the column of priority, and then save the file.
Summerhill.
Then this is saved in a file, and has many limitations. This is fixed. This sub file is a binary file that includes the IDs of the elements. That's it. That means that if next week you keep using Supermemo, and next week you want to keep using this strategy, you'll have to recreate this sub file, because you will have applied done and deleted some elements, or perhaps you have added other elements as a static. You'll have to recreate that. Now this is his outstanding queue, I may guess. Element, okay. Yeah. Now he will he will filter just the elements. And this, I can already tell you, all of those elements are from the English collection. I'm pretty sure, I cannot see this in the screen, but I doubt this is his genuine collection. I don't know. Doesn't seem like that.
Bark.
Then, only items, and the items only memorized. This is needed if you have items that are dismissed, or even pending. If you don't dismiss items, this step is not required. I don't, so I only need this memorized for topics. I only need this memorized filter for topics, not for items.
To protest against something in a friendly way.
Say, these are my outstanding repetitions. So now I will intersperse my subset.
He has 44,000 elements. Yeah, this count is very similar to the Advanced English collection. So I'm pretty sure it's not his incremental in collection. It doesn't look like that, though. It's too much of a coincidence that everything is just the Advanced English collection, that it's outstanding.
Subset.
Intersperse, not intersect, by the way. It's not what they have in common. Is that in subset A, I have subset B, add one element of A to the subset B, every element or every n elements, depends on you. I think he will do, I think the default is 5, something like that.
Intersperse subset. I'll choose Summerhill. I'll say.
It's 1. Sometimes it's 1, for some other things it's 5. Yes, you can do every element or every 1,000 elements, that is absurd. So I suggest to use a small number, but higher than 1.
Every
1 will be one of my original outstanding, Q, one of that I added in the subset file. One of my outstanding, one other from the subset I added.
fifth element.
Fifth element, that means that I will have 4 or 5 items from the outstanding, and the fifth, or the next one, will be from the subset file. So I can micro interleave the repetitions.
And now I have my Summerhill interspersed. Now I can do learn.
Oh no, the collection says all. So then I'm assuming, because this priority range is very low, most of the advanced English items in his genuine collection are left outstanding. He doesn't do the rep because of the low priority range.
Oh, so
Let me go again because he moves so quick.
fifth element. And now I have my Summerhill interspersed. Now I can do learn.
I don't know where he clicked. I think he clicked equivalent of Ctrl+Shit+L. Preparing subset repetitions. Yeah, because there are a ton of elements.
Protest.
To protest against something in a friendly...
The last button says a trust.
To protest against something in a friendly...
Oh, it's super hard to know.
Protest.
To protest against something in a friendly...
Protest.
To protest against something in a
He will get a window. Let me see if I can get it.
friendly...
Finally. So the choices window. This happens when different versions of the Supermemo algorithm differ a lot above a threshold of the next interval. For instance, you have 7 years and 16 years. He selects the as R, difficulty, stability, retrievability model, 7 years, and happens to be the smallest one, the shortest one. If you don't want this choice, he does it very quick just to enter. There's a trick you can use. Go to Toolkit Options, then Learning, and Algorithm SM18 Alerts. Make something very big like I have. The interval in day is something that it will be almost virtually impossible to achieve. And the A factor is 6.9, the maximum. Therefore, this alert will now show up. And this is true if you really want to pre-select the first option, that is SM18. If you don't want that, then yes, generally decrease this. So you can manually choose every single repetition.
The last button says a triangle is a base.
base.
The modeling of the renal.
Look at the interval. 17 years and 20 days. Oh my God.
Tubes found in urine. Flocculate.
Cast.
Nice. So this is an example that he failed to recall. He elapsed that item. No wonders. It's 17 years. That's a lot. So even if it's an item he created himself and is in the advanced English, he actually forgot that. I'm pretty sure he had 1 repetition since the last labs. So I'm pretty sure this has been outstanding for years, many years. And the retrievability, it's just 2 days. Lol. It's an absurd case.
Casts.
So without doing the math, it's pretty obvious that 99% or more of the interval has been outstanding. So from the 17 years, that was the interval, 16 years and something was outstanding within days or weeks, and the rest of the years has been left outstanding in the collection. Then he will do something interesting. The priority is about 65%, which in his collection at this time is more than 500,000 positions in the priority queue. He lapsed that element. So what he's going to do?
Asks.
Super quick. He sets the priority super high, 33 position. So almost the top position in his collection. So this jump more than 500,000 positions in the priority queue. This is massive. It's a massive jump. Why he did that? Because he lapsed this. His collection is large, but other than that, is that he's outstanding. Now he has 6,200 items in his outstanding queue. And I know he uses auto postpone. So actually, there are more items that are being left. Instead of being left outstanding, they are being postponed through auto postpone, but are not being done. The repetition is not being done when it's scheduled. That means that his priority protection is super low. He won't see that. He will have to do 9,000 repetitions today in order to see tomorrow, or likely to see tomorrow. That's why, if he doesn't increase the priority, substantially increase the priority, in a priority range that is within his priority protection, he's not going to see it. It will be lapsed, the interval will be reset, in this case 1 day, and this will be, boom, left outstanding, waiting for years, until he gets to the priority protection of the prior priority that was 30%, I think. 65. This is close to never. So this flow is relevant because it's very likely that once you see this, is when you do what he did. You do a subset, you intersperse, you do randomize the contents, so this neglects the priority, stuff like this. It's virtually impossible to have a repetition, genuine repetition of this item, 65% priority, using your sorting criteria. Unless your sorting criteria is just pure randomness. That doesn't take into account the priority. So if this happens, that okay, if it was not in this context, it's very likely I will not have seen this, but now that I have seen it, and I know I failed it, I've forgotten, let me increase the priority, because I want to see it again. Or if I don't, that means that, hey, I know I'm sending this element to the oblivion. If I do it, it's because I really want to send it to the oblivion. I don't care about that.
Luckily, casts. A modern guitar, like 10-string instrument played with piano tap.
Okay. We are in the video of the how to read the book in an hour. A reminder. So what happened that he did every 5 elements. So he has 5 elements that are only from the English collection. And then we will see the first element. It will be a topic of the book.
Technique.
Then, oh my god, he has more than 100 templates. And it's advanced English. That includes sounds, so include the sound component. He has a second version. And then for every single one of those, has 2 different variations because the image component is larger.
Chapman stick.
Oh my god. Oh my god. For me, this is micromanagement. You think that I'm invested to make this image larger? Through the template. It's worth your time. If it's very likely you will have never seen this if it was not because of this subset to begin with. And it's very likely this will be postponed again. and be only seen again if you only change the priority. So if you don't change the priority, don't bother changing the template. It's very likely you're not going to see this element again.
Such that it's handled by best.
Especially if it's just the size of the image and that's it. For me, I won't invest my time with this. I would prefer to spend more time doing more repetitions.
Unavailable aircraft.
Another one. And now finally, the next is the book. This works because it's item, 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 topic. Could be also the case that you get topics that are not from the book. It's a limitation of his example, because he first explicitly filtered items and then memorized, so memorized items. If you also want to interleave your outstanding, you do also have some topics. I want to read other topics that are not just the book. I want to interleave the reading. You can also do it. And you could fine-tune the ratio. How many? How you can do that? Easy. I will open a random branch. Let's do 2022. Nice. So I have topics and items here. So I can sort this by review. This follows my sorting criteria. So now if I change it, and I want, let's say 50-50, proportion of topics and items. So no, I want more topics, like for here. More or less 2 topics for each item. And now I resort. Nice. Do you see that most of the time, but not always, I have 2 topics between each item? Here I only have 1. Then I will save this as a subset. Or I have this, and then I will do the intersperse the subset file I have. So I'm not just doing items. Depends on you. There's no good and wrong. Depends what you want at that moment.
I have my first piece of Summerhill, sports and games. In most schools, sports are compulsory, even though watching a match is compulsory. In Summerhill, games are like lessons, optional. I would guess so. Wamba was in school for 10 years and didn't play a game, and he was never asked to play a game. But most of the children love games. Yeah, Summerhill.
Keep in mind that now that I see it, is that when it's a bluffy book, like in this case, there's a certain threshold of how you can extract, because it's context dependent. So like in a story and so on, that if I don't know, there's like a sequence, like a story, storytelling, narrative, that if I split this and it's out of context, and I don't know what is previous, even if I have read what was previously in the text, I would have forgotten that. I don't know where am I at, and what position in the book I am. So in this kind of books, the context is more required. It's not that friendly to just split one paragraph, because that paragraph perhaps doesn't stand by itself, unlike Wikipedia, for instance.
Chief games.
It's still kind of friendly. It's not one of the best examples to showcase what I meant. But some books is, I said before, as we previously seen, or they reference something previously said. They use the pronoun all of the time, so you don't know he or she or her. Who is her? I don't have the subject in the and the extract. So keep this in mind. The granularity of the extracting will also be limited by the friendliness of the content, not just the user preference.
Or hockey, the tennis in summer. Swimming is popular. We have no artificial gymnastics. Nor do we think it's necessary. And the case we're opinionated. The kids should decide, the younger children have a paddling pool, sandpit, seesaw. Yeah, nice philosophy. So let's summarize. No miracles.
Yes, please, let's summarize. This has been a long video. Oh my god.
400 pages with incremental reading, but I have good idea what's in the book. And I love the book.
Yeah, you have an overview. You have skimmed the book. And what you have done is in Supermemo, unlike in pen and paper, physical medium. So what you did is, what you consider is important, you know that because of the priority. You can filter by priority. What you didn't care and you deleted is no longer there. You came across the text to realize, oh yeah, I wanted to ignore that piece of text, as it happens with the physical medium, and a lot more things, because the physical medium is extremely limited. It's the worst case scenario possible.
You don't need to agree with everything, but this one is pretty inspirational. I copied and pasted it to Supermemo, converted it to plain text, added some reference, added the picture, I started learning.
The only picture he added is the cover. That's why I said that it's actually not needed, unless you want to use it as a mnemonic peg, as a mnemonic. That hey, when I see this image, yeah, I know the context already is this book, da. Instead of taking a peek at the reference, oh yeah, it's this author, this book, gotcha. It is like a shortcut. But again, it takes space, so it's like a trade-off.
Learning. Reading and splitting the book into pieces is very difficult. I don't want to bore you with reading.
It's very difficult to do it manually with plain text. Also, if you do it with HTML, that doesn't mean it's meaningful. You will just follow and split with the author's perspective, how he decided to split the chapters, which doesn't have to be the same as how you want it to be. So perhaps you will still do it a hybrid between automatic and manual is what I do. Or you can still go fully manual, even if it's HTML. So you could split by tags, but you don't use the tags. You want full control of what you split. To the expense of using more of your time before you actually read the book.
Your head, and you can't do that efficiently while reading, focusing on what you are supposed to say, where to put the markers. This needs to be organic and natural. So this really goes much better when you have a little bit of experience and you don't need to do recording at the same time. And then you can use tools like search and review. You can sort your book and review.
If you do search and review, you will create a subset indirectly, like he did with the democracy. Sort and review, if you want to sort by priority, by text size from the shortest, and you can do this any day. So perhaps tomorrow, I will do by size. I want something quick. Let's say this Sunday, I will do search and review about democracy from the book. You know what? I'm not in the mood for this, democracy, or I want serendipity. I will just go by random review. I don't do random review in Supermemo, this feature. This is collection-wise. I will do the subset. I will load the book in the browser, and I will change the order of the content by random. It'll be arbitrary. But then, when I set the subset, I will follow that order. It will be set. Or, as what he did, intersperse of what is outstanding or some other subject. Doesn't have to be the entire outstanding queue. Can be a subset of the outstanding queue by a concept. For instance, a concept group or a source. Or can be arbitrary, that I don't even care if it's not outstanding. Let's say I have an article about, about memory. And I want to intersperse memory and this book of scrolling back and forth. There are so many possibilities, and everything is dynamic. That's why once you have the skills of, I want to do this, and I know what I know to do in Supermemo in order to achieve it. Once you don't have this friction, it's super good, extremely good. So, oh yeah, I want to do this book and this article. Both are very large, and I want to micro-interleave those. Oh yeah, that means I will have to create a subset, save it as a file, do the intersperse, open that, blah, blah, blah. If you know all of these hard skills in Supermemo, then it's only about the soft skills, and enjoy the learning. That's the key factor. Enjoy the book. Get most of the value as a consequence. So you will get most of the value a lot quicker, and you will enjoy the process. Imagine that. Wow.
Optimize a review. You can interspace it with your outstanding repetitions of other subjects, or you can intersperse with other subjects at your will. So you can do Summerhill and mathematics in equal portions.
Yeah, mathematics is another example, yeah. Something that is very different.
Any portion you choose, any ratio you choose. Oh yeah.
Excellent video. Let me remember what I said back in the day. Oh yes, he said 1000 can be 2000, yes. Personally, I don't include the image cover, exactly what I mentioned. Do the split with HTML, because you can split by tags or chapters. Exactly. So it could be especially useful if you want to sort by size, especially the smallest to the largest. If you know that I have a meeting or I have, I don't know, something to do in real life in 10, 15 minutes, so I want something quick to do because I will only spend 15 minutes today. Then I asked, yeah, everything in the collection, what in the Advanced English collection is just a coincidence? No, because I noticed that the collection was his all collection. It's like my learning collection. And yes, and I will say that this is not, the title is just skimming the book in an hour, not reading the book in an hour. And he actually replied. Items also benefit from instant context generated by the corner of the eye. Yeah, it was being added by editing. Yeah, of course. It was noticeable. Items presentation was shifted by the Advanced English branch to make it more visual. Okay, that's what I actually forgot about this. So yes, all of the items of the Advanced English collection is his all collection, but he actually cheated in the editing because he presented it as, hey, that's my outstanding queue. And no, was a subset of the outstanding queue from the Advanced English branch. Not the same thing. Yeah, he did this video after 2 years of inactivity. Supermemo 16 uses different algorithm that weakens the subset review, does include the neural connectivity, neural review. And why it is common? That is because he did this video upon this one question that he spent he spent a couple of years to reply. And yeah, the original question was with Supermemo 16. So, well, we're lucky that he did the video, even if it was 2 versions after that. That's everything. It's been very long. I don't even know the time because I have stopped the recording several times because when it's too long, I don't want to lose the recording if it becomes corrupt or I lose power, whatever that may happen. So I'm not even sure. But it's been very long. This is only the video. We still have left the article. Here you have in more detail. You remember the kind of the start of the video that I said, what is your definition to read the book? If you finish everything, you read the entire thing, or you got all of the value you wanted from that book. That's why an incrementalist never finishes books. You read books, yes, like he did in the video, but you don't finish any book. You cannot say that, hey, when I say that I finished that book, When you say I have read this book, at least in English, that means that you have completed to read that book. Yeah, please don't use paper. I know some people are attached to the physical medium because of the texture, the tactile experience, perhaps even the smell of paper. But the sacrifice against incremental reading, it's like going in the Second World War with potatoes on your hands. There's nothing you can do. Now you have AI. And yes, I will do a dedicated video about that. Now you could simplify this flow. You could get a summary of the book or a chapter. So if a chapter sounds interesting to you, you could expand and just get a summary of that chapter specifically. Or you could ask, hey, in what section of the book talks about democracy? Then I get briefed. Okay, now I know where to look at for the golden nuggets. So with the AI, it's like some radar. That the golden nuggets are likely to be here, 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 and there. It's not exact position, and it's not exact. So perhaps it will be slightly off. That AI is not that a golden nugget. It's a silver nugget instead. But it was a potential golden nugget. So you could skip a lot of this process with the AI, with language models. And instead of exploring yourself, you use the radar, like pre-cooking. So you are like going in a forest that someone else already passed before you and had set some footsteps, so you already have a lot of hints where is a safe place to go, where it's not, where there are, I don't know, if there are mushrooms to pick up, whatever. You get, I think, my analogy. He says, that was edited out, he says 3 or 10 minutes. I'm skeptical. Perhaps this book was quite easy, but by average, if you want to manually split an article, a book, of 400 pages, so you have to scroll and notice where the chapter ends, or something meaningful. Perhaps it's not a chapter, could be a section of a chapter. I really doubt it's done within 3 and 10 minutes. I can actually do this off screen with this very same book, and I will let you know how much I needed to manually split the plain text, doing the Shift-Alt-L. Sorry, Shift-Alt-H every time. Split meets the Alt, speed reading principle. Skim before you read. Yeah. And that's the flow he did. He reads, well, he skims. One is skimmed, he reads, he extracts, and he splits. You could just do the mark and then a split by this horizontal mark, or extract one by one, or a combination of both. Something that's not in the video, that I showed you at the start of the video, is that then, later on, the next step is to create the close deletions. Exactly. You decide from the book what you want to remember with one click. Well, Alt-Z. You can click if you want, but I suggest to use the key binding. Spaced repetition is what makes speed reading books highly productive. Yeah. And the skimming. Incremental reading supports a lossless form of skimming, as mentioned before. Compare this to pen and paper. We can sort by size, as we have seen, search and review. We can do this kind of subset. The Democra, without the T, with the example. And each time you need to research anything, you generate a fantastic context of your learning. Yep. Add to outstanding is one strategy. If you don't want to use intersperse, you can also do just plain and simple add to outstanding, and then do the outstanding queue. You never need to read at the cost of everything else. This is a golden mean. Exactly. I have only violated this rule once, and because that was the point. I really wanted to experience that. That was a book about barefoot a book about barefoot running. That I read the entire book, well, 95% of the entire book in a week, at the expense of everything else. I did nothing else in Supermemo. That's an outlier case. Usually you want to intersperse out to outstanding because you want to do this book and something else. You interleave this. That's a set and random, and we have seen, and the don'ts. Software that implements speed reading by dashing words or characters at the set optimum speed violates many rules of incremental reading. Yes. Is when you have a word in the screen very quickly you have the next word da 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 da. Yes, that's not what you want at all. Focusing on speed is a bad idea. Yes. The focus is in knowledge, in golden nuggets. As a knowledge goblin, you want to get golden nuggets, information that is very useful for you and very applicable. And exactly, if something is very valuable, when you find, hey, there's a golden nugget buried in this piece of text, you will read more carefully, therefore slower. Shutting off your inner dialogue is a bad idea. Oh, that is, I wasn't expecting that here. It may serve a speed, yes. If you turn off this dialogue, inner dialogue, so you don't have this inner voice, you will be able to read quicker, guaranteed. That doesn't mean you will have the same degree of comprehension. So at the end of the day, if your goal is to comprehend the text as quick as possible, if we focus on the speed at that moment, by reading faster doesn't mean you will end up with the goal faster. Actually, the opposite. You will have to reread more often because of the lower comprehension rate. Yeah, review the table of contents. That is only true if you want to split ahead of time. Other than that, and there are so many don'ts, oh my god. Add more attention to the beginning and at the end of the book is natural. However, yeah, exactly. It's something many people do. I still do myself. Or when I have a topic, I start at the beginning and kind of the end. But in incremental reading, or at least in Supermemo, you lose the fascination. So your only guidance is the scrollbar. So where you're in a, let's say, a random position, you can kind of guess where you're at, but you don't know which page you are at. So you could not say, as many people do, is, hey, I will read 20 pages a day. I will read 100 pages a week. Or whatever number you want of pages by amount of time. This is a silly metric. You want to get knowledge out of that, not to accumulate kilometers, right? So if we use the analogy of runner, what is your goal? To train for a marathon and win the marathon, or get the best possible time in the marathon, or accumulate kilometers or miles? Oh yeah, I will train 100 miles a week. So by the day of the competition, I will have accumulated 2,000 miles. That's not the point. The point is to run the marathon as quick as possible. I think it's a good analogy. So I don't want to read 2,000 pages for the sake of having read 2,000 pages. That's a silly metric. What I want is to get most of the value embedded, buried on those 2,000 pages, or whatever pages. Could be just 500, but most of the value were in those 500, because as a goblin, knowledge goblin, what I did is that I skimmed the book. So the 1,500 pages that I haven't seen are the ones that I kind of know they will have a less value. They are no golden nuggets. Could be some gem, it's hidden there, but it will be one-off. Then, I do not use a timer in running my daily schedule. I do use a timer running in my daily schedule, the plan, yes. He's a slave of his own plan. But I will never use time to read itself. Exactly. So there's no time Piotr Wozniak doesn't allow any time, doesn't plan any time specific on the day that the activity will be about reading. There is no limit in time. Time invested depends on the yield. Yeah. So what I mentioned, the example with the pages, the same is true for time. So instead of the goal of 2,000 pages a week or a month, I would say, hey, 1 hour a day or 20 minutes a day. Same thing. It's like, hey, to compare the same analogies before, I'm training for a marathon and I want to accumulate 100 hours of running. Yep, that doesn't transfer necessarily with performance, right? I do not do mind mapping. This goes against the, how it's called, John Song, that he goes super crazy with mind mapping, and a lot of people who are not familiar with incremental reading or incremental reading enough. And it's not a bad idea. I believe that some sort of mind mapping happens in my head automatically and subconsciously. Yes, it's implicit. I struggle to describe it, so do I. It's like it's building behind the curtains without being you conscious that it's forming. It's like forming the big picture, but the previous steps of the big picture. You get this mind mapping. Mind mapping will be more explicit to have a visual representation of the connections on your brain with a lot more primitive, a lot more simplified, I mean. Yes, I do agree. So there is the need. The message is that there's no need. If you read the book incrementally, there's no need to do mind mapping. You will create the big picture, not just from this book, this source, but your entire collection, everything you have put in Supermemo. So how everything, the information that is on the book, self-contained in the book, not just that, but with already what you know that you have from other sources in Supermemo will be mapped with your knowledge, with your semantic knowledge, the network. Not only that, even the information that is implicit, is tacit, is not even physically, virtually in Supermemo. I already love the speed reading. The refers to the saccadic movement. Yeah, the saccade is the movement of the eye, horizontally and vertically when you go to the next line. So when you want to speed read, you have to move the eyes a lot quicker. I have a video about readability that is kind of related to the saccade. So this will be like the physiological or anatomical limit, that the amount of milliseconds that you need when you change the line or when you read you focus on a word and you see the next words in next, you're gonna still interpret that, but not as good, and how quick you're moving, that is this word, that this word, perhaps now two words, one word again, to 2D, how quick you're going, or you do larger chunks instead, or whatever. The focus here is semantics, is the meaning behind the words, not the word itself. So I don't want to optimize to be able to read what's being written, but to read and understand the message. So the actual reading, the actual letters, words, it's just a way to trigger this. But what's important is my comprehension, not the reading. So I could be able to produce a lot more. Let's say that I want to increase my speaking speed. I could do with gibberish, or whatever nonsensical thing I want to do. I will be able to produce more sounds per second, unit of time. Yes. Like I could read more words per minute. It's the same thing. But it's nonsensical. I will be reading like a parrot. That's not a skill I want. Any form of intentionally may interfere in this process, it's best optimized, yeah. And it's very likely that if you search in YouTube about the speed reading and so on, that is unrelated to the incremental reading, they go in that direction. This is very close or pure bullshit. Please don't do it. It's a very, very wrong objective to have. Rereading reviews and summaries, especially in the era of ChatGPT, is a great strategy, but it's not part of reading the actual book. Yes, that's why I mentioned that now with the AI, it's like a radar. It's, hey, very likely there's a golden egg there, there's a golden egg there, but then you go there and you read that piece of information in the source. You don't believe ChatGPT, okay, that's a golden nugget, gotcha. It's just pointing me where it is, and I will read the source, not the review or the summary. So the summary and all of this is very good, but as skimming, I won't create flashcards out of the summary. Then similarly, I do Syntopical reading all of the time. Wait, I'm not familiar with perhaps I know that, but I don't know the name for it. I just never used the name. Okay, perhaps this is my case. Syntopical reading is a great idea to read books in the same subject all the time and thus build greater synchronizations. Okay, gotcha. When I do search a subject, I often import a great deal of material. Yeah. So let's say that I import a lot of topics, articles about the same topic. And I do incremental reading on those, yes. As a consequence, I would do Syntopical reading, even if I don't want. It's like a side effect at some sort. He says, I reached the pinnacle of syntopicality when I researched my dislike of friction, acquired at school. I imported to Supermemo the book, a lot of the flies, the movies, several summaries from Wikipedia that was fun but did not last long. Each imported piece had its faults. Yeah. Usually what happens with the incremental reading, that if I import the book, I process that book, then the next book I will read about the same topic, I have a greater previous knowledge. So some pieces of knowledge that will be golden nuggets for me, they are not anymore, because now it's not novel. I know that already. So the more books I have, the less margin I have for learning. So the next book could still be useful, but not as before. So if I read this book today, or I would have read this book 10 years ago, or in the next 5 years, my value will be different. So if that book is good for you, not as good for me, perhaps it's because I have read a lot more. I have more knowledge about that. So the margin I have, my learning margin is narrower. Therefore the value it can add to me is limited. And the outcomes. Maximization of the outcomes is measured accurately by the pleasure of an hour of reading. Yes, the maximum. It's not about the number of items you do, the knowledge that it will be hard to measure, the knowledge and the applicability of that knowledge that you got from that hour. Overall, the king is the pleasure you got. And with more pleasure you will get, it's like a consequence. You will have a better performance because you enjoy it. You will be more deeply immersed and engaged with the content. You will have a better recall just because you have enjoyed it. So extremely long video, reaction video. So yes, how to read a book in an hour and how to watch a video about this topic longer than an hour. Super ironic. Let me know your opinion of everything I have said in this video. Nothing more to add today, and see you incrementally.